and welcome to the Stitch Goddess podcast, episode 6. My name is Elizabeth. You can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as Elissa Pack, and show notes for this podcast will be found on my blog, which is thestitchgoddess.com. This is actually my second take. First time the camera wasn't recording. Whoops. If you are new to the podcast, welcome. I'm so delighted you're joining me. I am going to be talking about knitting, sewing, quilting, and in general, my crafting life. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. It means a lot to share this part of my life with you. I have some finished objects to share and some finished object archive pieces from my archive, and some works in progress and upcoming projects. So thanks. Let's get started. Thank you. So to begin, I have some finished objects right behind me. I have my Artifice shawl by Hunter Hammerson from the Curls 2 book. This has been blocked and I've worn it many times, and it is really, really, I think, just gorgeous. I absolutely love the color. It did not stretch out as much as I had hoped. This is the Dream in Color Jilly yarn in the Tidal colorway, and it's just a superwash merino, 100% superwash, so it didn't quite stretch as much as I'd liked, and I think I can wear it like this, but the ends don't tend to come around very far without choking myself. And I'm still trying to experiment with different ways to wear this. I love being able to show off this little scalloped pointy edge. And I had thought using this little shawl pin would work. The only problem is I have to aim it exactly right through the lace holes, and otherwise it just doesn't work. So I have to find or use another shawl pin if I want to do anything where it is more like so, because it's just not going to stay on my shoulder. So I wish I had been able to buy another skein of this yarn. But ultimately, I would like to be able to wear this with a big coat that I would like to make, but I am saving up for that fabric because it is quite expensive, but it's going to be beautiful. The other finished object I have is this lace dress from Knitting for Olive. Oh, it is so soft. It's been washed and blocked and buttoned, and I found an adorable little butterfly button for the neck. So I'm really, really thrilled with how this turned out. It's so pretty, it's soft, and I think it's gonna look really, really nice with this little bonnet. So I think that's just going to be really precious, and I think my friend in Australia is going to like this. So this is the 9-month size. I wouldn't say this was a beginner pattern by any stretch. It takes into account that you have made garments before and that you understand how a garment comes together, particularly with the back, splitting for the back and making the side seams, or making the front and back sides. So if you want to make this, I think it's a really good one. It's a good project. If you are a somewhat beginning knitter or an intermediate knitter, please feel free to check out my project page. I have uploaded lots and lots of notes, and even I have favorited a few other people who made this project, and their notes were very, very helpful. But it did assume that you understood a lot more about garment making than I had assumed. But I went very, very slowly, reading the instructions word by word and doing exactly what they said, and it worked. But do check out my project notes if you decide to make this, and if you have questions. So those are the two. Oh no, I have finished, partly, almost finished, my Tacit hand warmers. I still have to do the thumb on the right hand side, but I jumped up from, I believe this was a 2.5 millimeter needle that I used for my left hand, and I jumped up to a 3.5 millimeter needle, and it has made all the difference. This is the right hand warmer, and it is just a delight to put on. It is easy, and there's enough stretch without it feeling really, really tight. I think once it gets washed and blocked, it will be even better. And as you can see, I still have to do the thumb, but this went so quickly. I cast on, and again, because it is a larger needle, I was able to basically go up to where you knit the stitches for the thumb and then put them onto a stitch holder in a day. And then the next time I picked it up, I was able to finish that within an hour, and it was really, really easy. By contrast, this one, while it technically fits, it is very, very snug. So I have gone ahead and cast on the second left wrist warmer using the 3.5 millimeter needles, and I got a new pair of needles from another local shop, Yarn Haven, and these are the Hiya Sharps 3.5 millimeter. It's a US 4, and these are really, really sharp. I had no idea. It's definitely working for this project, but these are power needles. They mean business. So I think this one will be done very, very shortly, and then I will have a true finished project with these hand warmers. I've been using Madeline Tosh Merino Light in Snake, and oh my goodness, just the difference between one and the other makes a huge difference. So very excited to finish those. I hope you like the flowers. I went to the farmer's market this morning, and I just wanted something bright and cheerful. So I want to talk about socks. I am relatively new to sock knitting. I have made 5 pairs, and I'll show each one. This was the very first pair that I made, and it was a basic sock pattern by Bernat, and it was Bernat yarn. It was in a kit, and there was a book, a kit, and some double-pointed needles, and I spent a day and made a complete sock. We were visiting family and just sitting around watching a movie, and I just kept going and going and going, and it was my first sock. I don't know which one was which, but I didn't know anything about sock making, sock construction, sock yarn, self-striping yarn. I didn't know anything about that. It never had crossed my mind to make a pair of socks. I just didn't have any knitting with me, and I wanted to knit something, so it was going to be socks. So I'm really surprised after the first one that I didn't really get the sock bug. It took me about a year, or maybe 2, to make the second sock. So my husband got the second one for Christmas one year, and I mean, they don't match, but they are the same yarn. But what's funny is that there are matching ladders on either side. So I am consistent with these, but these were just really basic socks, and I'm I'm very happy. They're nice, loose, sort of squishy, around the house socks, and they seem to be fine. So the second pair of socks, so I jumped from a basic sock to a very lacy pair of socks. These were the Bas Relief socks from, I think, an Interweave magazine. And the picture was quite ridiculous, honestly. It showed the socks, a woman wearing this pair of socks from the leg down, from the knee down, and she was wearing a pair of, stupid heels, 4-inch heels, stupid shoes. I don't wear heels. No offense if you do. And, it certainly showed off the sock, and I thought they were really pretty, and I remember buying this yarn. This is Lana Grossa. There's some silk cashmere blend. It's a silk cashmere blend, and I'll put all the information on the screen and in the show notes. And I think when I first started, I made it to about here, and I was absolutely overwhelmed with this. I bought the yarn from a shop in Ann Arbor, and these were tiny little needles. So surprisingly, the stripes match on these socks. That was completely unintentional. I still didn't know anything about self-striping yarn. The only issue, well, aside from how long it took me to make these, when I finally finished them and I was trying them on, the distance between the front of the heel and the back, or like right in here, that makes it very, very difficult to put on. They're very, very tight. I can get them on, but they're not comfortable to put on. They don't just slide on. So I think if I were to ever try to make this pattern again, very unlikely, but if I were, I would use a larger needle size. I would use probably a 2.25 millimeter or even a 2.5 millimeter and just do the pattern again. So I'm pleased that I finished them, but I was still disappointed that I didn't get something that I really, really loved. Now, as those were waiting in a bag for 6 years, or the first one, I made another pair of socks. These are the Pearl Soho Perfect Fit socks, and I used Anzula Cloud in Herb, this beautiful sort of jade green. Love this color, but there are two things that went wrong with these socks. When you do the heel, I think I did 20 rows, and you're supposed to repeat 2 rows 20 times. So when I went to pick up the stitches for the gusset, it was absolutely flabbergasting that there could have been a way to pick up so many stitches for the gusset, and I just could not figure out what I had done wrong. I managed to do it, turn the heel, pick up the gusset, and finish the socks, and they are really, really lovely, but I made the larger size, and I didn't need to. So that was a problem. So they fit great as soon as I put them on, but they stretched because it is just a rib. And then, sadly, they were in the laundry basket and they went through the wash and the dry, and they have felted to some extent. So they're still very, very soft, and in the winter time, these feel really, really good. These are great bed socks at this point. You can see that they've fuzzed up. There's quite a bit of halo. There's quite a bit of felting. So I was disappointed. I'm disappointed that I didn't care for these properly. And it wasn't until I made another pair that I realized what I had done wrong with the heel. So my pattern seems to be to go from basic to complicated to basic to complicated. And I made these socks, which are the Lady Grey socks by Carrie Bloomer, and I was using a local dyer's yarn, a luxurious sock weight. This is Live to Dye in Corundum Stone, and I even made a cute little swatch in the round because the instructions said to make a gauge, to get your gauge, so I did it. I have no idea what I was supposed to learn from this. I really have no idea. It's cute. I mean, maybe I can make a knitted giraffe toy and have this as a little neck scarf for the giraffe. I don't know. But I made this. I have no idea what purpose this little swatch serves. So, taken into account that I remember there were 64 stitches that I cast on for this, and I think maybe 80 that I cast on for this. I went back and looked at my notes. So I cast on around 71 for these, and these fit really nicely. They came out perfectly. The pattern was a lot of fun to make. I was very surprised that it's not really self-striping. I think it was supposed to be, but in my case it became self-spiraling because they just keep going around and around. But I'm really pleased with how these turned out, and I think I had a question or something for the designer, and Carrie Bloomer was very kind and responded to my questions, especially I think about gauge. She was very responsive, and she does a lot of really amazing projects. So about the same time that I was knitting these, I tried another basic sock, perfect sock, ribbed sock for my husband as a surprise Christmas present. These are the Perfect Fit socks. I made them in the smaller size because my husband has very slender legs. And when I got to the heel, I realized once I actually did the 20 repeats of 2 rows, I realized, oh, that makes it so much easier to pick up the correct number of stitches for the gusset. So this is the Dream in Color Smooshy in the Tidewater colorway. And I think I went back to the store, to Loopville in Knoxville, to try to see if they had more of this colorway because I ran out on the second sock, and they didn't, but I used a Madeline Tosh unicorn tail in Black Widow to finish it off, and you can hardly tell the difference. And besides, it's going to be in a shoe. But this has some cashmere in it, and oh, these are heavenly. This was a heavenly yarn to work with. They feel amazing. They fit my husband really, really well. And everyone in my local knitting group and people I would meet on the street knew that I was making a secret sock, a pair of secret socks for my husband. So every time it was time to go pick up our son from school, I'd be, oh honey, I'll go pick him up. I would grab this and I would be waiting early. I would be early to pick him up, and I'd be waiting, knitting furiously on these socks. And I'm gonna go to bed now. I would go to bed early to read, and I would knit on these socks. Now, one evening he came in. I didn't hear him really walking down the hall, or I heard him just before he came into the bedroom, and I managed to grab the project and hide it and pretend that I was reading. Apparently it took me a very long time to read this one book. And he came over and he was sitting down and we were talking, and he reached over and he patted my leg, but it wasn't my leg. He put his hand right on top of the project, under the covers, and I had to keep a straight face and, keep talking. Meanwhile, in my head, I'm freaking out thinking, he's gonna lean over, he's gonna snap the needle, he's gonna stab himself, he's gonna find out that I'm knitting this project, I'm gonna have to show him, and it's gonna spoil the surprise, and it was stressful. But he did not find out until Christmas morning. So these were wrapped separately in and they were stocking stuffers. So he got stockings in his stocking stuffer, and I think he really likes them, but there was a lot of pressure to finish them in time, and I don't know if I would put myself under that pressure again. So in my whole 2018 challenge, I have 3 pairs of socks, and I had originally planned to use something like this, which is Madeline Tosh Merino Light. It's 100% merino wool, fingering weight, 420 yards. I thought, perfect, I've got enough. There's plenty of yardage here. But as I've been watching other podcasts, other knitters talk about socks, I realized I don't think this is the right yarn for this project. It's a single ply. And I talked with some people at my local yarn group, the Sit and Stitch, and they were explaining, yeah, you want sock yarn that has more than one ply, because this will fall apart much more rapidly. It will wear out much more rapidly than something that has multiple plies. So when the yarn is plied, a single ply, there's just one twist. With a 2-ply, if I understand correctly, the yarns are plied together, but they're plied in the opposite direction, so that when they become one strand of yarn, they're much stronger and they hold really, really well. So I had these beautiful skeins of yarn. I had this, which is Night Bloom, and I had some other skeins, and I thought, oh, what am I going to do now? Well, I looked through my stash and I found substitutions, yarns that I had nothing particular in mind, but they're going to be perfect. So I have Just a Girl and Her Dog yarns. This is a local dyer I bought this at the Clinch River Yarn Company during the 2017 East Tennessee Yarn Crawl. And this is the colorway, and this is the Spanish Moss colorway. It's 100% extra fine merino, 450 yards. This is Destination Yarn. It's a hand-dyed yarn. I saw this on Instagram and snatched it up. It is fingering weight, 75% superwash merino wool, 20% nylon, and 5% stellina. So I'm gonna have sparkle socks. And so it's got, surprise, surprise, some of the same colors that I've been knitting with for months. But it does have some beautiful speckles. There's a little bit of yellow, some pale blue, a little bit of sort of blue-gray, this beautiful deep ocean turquoise green color, and of course the sparkle. So this is going to be fun, and it is appropriate for a pair of socks. So I can't wait to make sparkle socks. And I also have some Wool Barn socks, Wool Barn lustrous sock yarn in pink. I'm doing a lot of pink, which we're going to get to in just a moment, but a lot of things are pink this year. I have a pink calendar, pink pens, a pink phone, pink shirt, lots of pink this year. So I really am excited to cast on for a pair of pink socks. I've been dreaming about making a pair of pink socks ever since I saw some of the pink yarn from the Wool Barn, and it's been a very long time that I've wanted to make some, and so I'm really gonna just dive in and enjoy this. I think I'm going to follow Danny from Little Bobbins Knits example and cast this on as my birthday cast on. So try to get that done, or get that started, have that ready to go for my birthday. But I have 3 pairs of socks that I want to knit this year, and I've chosen 3 beautiful yarns as substitutions, because the original yarns that I had in mind were all Madeline Tosh Merino Light, and I will show you the yarns that I'm using. I have this, which is Tosh Merino Light in high-low. It's a pale pink with tiny black flecks, occasional hints of like sort of a pink, orchid pink purple color. It's sort of pale cream pink apricots, very soft, very delicate. I was also saving this yarn, and this is a Tosh Merino Light in Kilim. When I was knitting my Constellate hat by Hunter Hammerson, someone on Ravelry was making the same hat in this yarn, and oh my, it was stunning. And I love this yarn. I absolutely am in love with these colors. It's this beautiful orchid purple. There's bits of gold, bits of blue, bits of darker purples, bits more like a dusty rose, and some apricots. It's a surprise to knit every time I work with this. And the last yarn that I had intended to make a pair of socks with for my husband, I was going to make him the male counterpart to the Lady Grey socks. I was going to make the Earl Grey socks in Madeline Tosh Merino Light in Oxblood. This is a really beautiful dark wine burgundy color. But I had these 2 originally in mind for socks, along with the Night Bloom. And once I realized I couldn't use that, I thought, well, what am I going to do with these yarns? And the answer was staring me straight in the face every time I went onto Instagram, because people were talking about the Impressionists shawl. It's a mystery knit along. So I'm almost done with clue number 1, but I'm not going to show you. I'm only going to show you the yarn that I'm working with. But when I had this inspiration, I realized this is single ply. This is perfect use. A shawl is the perfect use for a single ply yarn. And I thought, I wonder if these yarns would go together. And I pulled them out and put them all together, and I feel transformed as a knitter. This is so different from everything I've ever done. I think I have always liked knitting because the patterns generally tell you what to do. They tell you exactly what to do. And if you just trust the designer, then you will have a beautiful finished object. In this case, it's a mystery knit along, so there's a lot of trust going on with the designer, but I think there are about 1,300 people making this same shawl, and nobody will have this exact color palette. I think I've always sort of leaned towards more solid tones. So this is a real eye-opener to something that is more variegated, tonal, flecked. it's very, very different, and it feels like me. It feels like, just, yes, this is what I am doing. And and it just happens to be perfectly coordinated with my Fawn and the Fox unicorn bag. So it just has brought so much joy. I absolutely love this. I'm just thrilled. Like I said, I've almost finished clue number 1. I started about a week late, so I'm going to town on that. I think I'm on row 86, 87, and that's just in the last few days. So it's just going crazy. I did make some swatches for my next sweater, or my first sweater this year, which is going to be the Kingston Tunic by Andrea Mowry. And I'm using this beautiful blue Wool Days Scout yarn in the blueberry colorway. It's single source West Australian certified biodynamic merino wool. It's a DK weight. And this is just really soft. I mean, it was soft before I blocked it. It's really, really soft now. And I also did a knit in the round swatch, or yeah, I did a knit in the round swatch, cut it open, and it is so nice. I can't wait to dive into this sweater. This is going to be a lot of fun. So that is a new project, and I've picked up my oldest work in progress. It is the Icy Sweater by Kim Hargreaves for Rowan, and it's on teeny tiny needles. These are 3mm needles. These are carbons with the nice sharp metal tip, and I've done about 8 rows, so I've at least gotten started on this project. This poor sweater has been through a traumatic experience. I'm pretty sure that I started this in 2013 or 2004. No, excuse me, 2003, 2004. 2004 for sure. Because I have 2 cats, and I found Charlotte and Eddie the day that they were born in September 3rd, 2003. And not long after, I had this yarn, and I was knitting on this, and Charlotte found the yarn, and I didn't realize that until I came back towards my room, and there was yarn up on the bed, down on the floor, into the closet, out the door, down the hall, and it was a mess. And it took me, I think, about 3 hours to untangle it. Now this is Kid Silk Haze. It's like knitting with thread. It's very, very hazy. It grabs onto things. So it took a very, very, very long time to unwind or to reball all of this. And this is the inside. And I think there are at least 6 joins of the yarn. So I had mini balls, I had bigger balls. I just kept joining all the yarn back together again. So I feel like it is time to start working on this again and to take my time with it and just enjoy it. And I'm keeping it in my Longbourn shawl zip. I have probably 8 balls of yarn and the sweater and the instructions and the needle in here right now, and it hardly weighs anything. This is my little skein in the big wool project bag, and it is perfect for this project. So it's going to stay in there for a little bit. The very last project that I am working on right now is the Awesome Ocean quilt. My local shop, Atomic Fibers, is having a challenge for April, and it is to finish a class project. So I have 2 creatures left to sew up. I have the manatee and the seahorse left to sew, and I spent all day yesterday cutting out fabric for the manatee, and I'm almost done with cutting out the fabric for the seahorse. There are 24 fiddly little pieces of fabric in that seahorse, so there's quite a bit to do. I have started laying out all of the finished creatures so that I could see what colors I have, what if there was anything new I wanted to add to the quilt. And the designer has these organized or laid out by color. So there's dark blue, pale blue, dark green, sort of neon green, sand, yellow, gold, red, and orange. My colors don't look anything like this. In fact, my background doesn't look anything like this at all. And it's not very easy to show what a quilted work in progress looks like, because it just looks like little bits of fabric. And that's exactly what they are. But I'm aiming to have this done by the end of April, and then I will have it professionally quilted, and then I will come up with some sort of fabric for the binding, and then it will be done, and I hope my son will really like it because it's going to go in his room. So that is everything that I've been working on. I think I had about 3 days where I had one work in progress for knitting, and that didn't last. So now I have 4. I haven't done any garment sewing, and I think I've just I've signed myself up for so much that I just need to finish the things that I'm working on. And I still have, it's amazing, once I finish something, I still have plenty of projects to take its place. So there's never a shortage of things to do. And I'm just getting so much joy from this Impressionists Mystery Knit Along. And it just is absolutely joyful. So thank you for joining me, and I hope you have a lovely week full of knitting and sewing and crafting and things that make you feel really joyful. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.